All right, buckle up. It's a long one. Chapter 9. The deep is hell. We have seen how the Babylonian conception of the unreclaimed watery chaos developed into an infernal power, and in one direction as the dragon serpent or evil spirit, and in another direction into an infernal or lower region into which the souls of men descend after death. As Tiamat cherished in her dark depths all monstrous forms of evil, so among the Hebrews the great deep was the abode of Rahab, the storm dragon, which was only another form of Tiamat and in later times interpreted to be Satan. Thus Job, speaking of the Almighty, says, He stilleth the sea with his power, and by his understanding he smiteth through Rahab. His hand hath pierced the gliding serpent. Here the Septuagint translate the last line. By his command he hath destroyed the apostate dragon. And Origen, commenting on the passage, says it is certain that by the apostate or fugitive dragon is to be understood the devil himself, who is essentially of a cold nature. In the sea also, he adds, the dragon is said to reign, for the prophet intimates that the serpent and dragon, which certainly is referred to one of the wicked spirits, is also in the sea, alluding probably to Ezekiel 32:2. Thou art as a dragon in the seas. And elsewhere the prophet says, I will draw out my holy sword upon the dragon, the flying serpent, upon the dragon, the crooked serpent, and will slay him. And again he says, even though they hide from my eyes and descend into the depths of the sea, there will I command the serpent, and it shall bite them. In the book of Job, also, he is said to be the king of all things in the waters. The dragon who is in the sea was similarly understood by S. Jerome to be the devil. In medieval Latin, as De Gubernatis notes in his chapter on the serpent and the aquatic monster, Hydros or water serpent was a name of the devil, who was also sometimes identified with Neptunus under the name of Aquatulus, or god of the waters. He adds that a demon called Dracus from Draco was believed to haunt streams, and that generally the serpent devil appears in special connection with the infernal waters. This marine character of the evil one is widely traceable in folklore. There is an Arabic superstition example that the huge hand of Satan may be rising out of the ocean to seize anyone who ventures to sail on the sea of darkness. Mare Tembrosum, the Atlantic. An Irish 8th century life of St. Fechin ascribes the savagery of a swelling, tempestuous sea to Satan himself assisting from beneath. In the Babylonian mythology, the abyss of waters was also the appointed abode of demons and the place of their punishment. There, the 7 evil spirits have their dwelling, who, among with Tiamat, i.e., the storm winds in conjunction with the deep, conspire to tear down the heavens and throw nature into its primitive anarchy. They are frequently mentioned in the tablets. Example, those 7, the evil gods, the serpents of death who have no fear, those 7, the evil gods who swoop like the deluge, swoop upon the great world like a storm. In the great mother deep, Bohu, the Waste, who was also the lady of the house of death, these demons were assigned their home. Another name by which they were known was Anunach, or masters of the underworld, and in this capacity they were the agents of the infernal goddess Alat, the lady of the gloomy pit. In fact, virtually devils. It was these Anunach Ge, or lords of the subterranean water, who brought the flood over the earth according to the deluge tablets. Another inscription says, In the abyss of the seas 7 are they, pity and kindness know they not, evil are they, baleful are they. When they issue forth upon the earth, it is in the guise of pestilent and destructive winds, and their representations on the monuments were forms of the most repulsive hideousness, which strongly resemble the devils of the medieval illuminators. If Tiamat is the prototype of Satan himself, the Anunach Ge of the deep are certainly the counterparts of the demons. These two were commonly believed to be busy in storms. When Ferdinand in the tempest leaped into the sea, he cried, "Hell is empty and all the devils are here." The 8th century life of Saint Fechin mentions that he could not behold the sea in a great gale without thinking upon these evil powers and influences whose fury is seen in that watery fury, and their hellish hate and turbulence in the beating of the sea against the rocks, and the gnashing and twisting of their lost and evil souls, and the gnashing and twisting of the froth. In reading this graphic description, we can hardly help thinking of an incident in the tempest on the Sea of Galilee when the Lord rebuked the sea and the winds as if sentient creatures. We may conjecture, perhaps without irreverence, that he was condescending to the modes of thought of the terrified fishermen when he addressed each raging element in turn with a direct personal word of command. To the roaring wind, be silent. To the yawning deep, close thy mouth. The latter words recall the primitive idea of the sea as a devouring open-mouthed monster, ready to swallow up the little bark which it had been cruelly tormenting. His deep devouring jaws wide gaped like the grisly mouth of hell, through which into his dark abyss all raven fell. The conscious being to whom the rebuke was given as the ultimate and moving cause of the lawless state of the elements no doubt was Satan, the author of all disorders alike in the natural and spiritual world, which indeed was, as we have seen, the primary conception of that anarch old. In like manner, the walking of Jesus upon the stormy billows was very probably not merely a thaumaturgic act to exhibit his mastery over the tumultuous power of the deep, and so his oneness with him whose way is in the sea, who alone treadeth upon the waves of the sea, but a parabolic action as treading down the rebellious uprising of sin, disorder, and death, and trampling on the watery kingdom whose ambitious head spits in the face of heaven, on the part of him under whose feet the head of the serpent and all his enemies are to be placed.